Hi, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. My name's Leon Gordon, and you are at the Microsoft Power BI UK user group, and we're back for another fantastic webinar. And this time we're joined by Mara Pereira. Now, Mara Pereira is a cloud solution architect for data and AI at Microsoft, and her main focus is helping guide large customers on their digital transformation journeys. She helps them realize the potential and impact that Power BI can have on their organizations. And even though she's quite new at Microsoft, she is not new to Power BI and of course the Powerapps and Power Automate suite. Now, Mara will be talking to us today about how you can enhance Power BI with Power Apps and Power Automate. Please, if you do have questions, I will open up the Q&A functionality for you. So please do ask your questions in there. And what will happen is I will save these questions and pose them to Mara at the end of the session. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, and I'll pass you over to Mara.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here speaking again about Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and all that juicy stuff that we all love. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see my screen now. So as Leon already introduced me, I'm Mara, Cloud Solution Architect here at Microsoft. I focus on data and AI, but mostly I work with Power BI and a little bit of Power Apps and Power Automate. And today, as Leon also mentioned before, we are going to talk a little bit about the different integrations that you can do with Power BI, Power Automate, and Power Apps. So before we actually get to I'm going to do a demo, but before we actually get to there, I wanted to give you like a little bit of an introduction. If you follow my blog, I have a blog called Data Pairs, by the way. If you follow my blog, you probably have seen this image before, this flowchart before. And I just wanted to introduce this to you for probably the new people that are not so used to Power BI. They are still in the beginning of their journey. And of course, you have like a lot of things that you need to basically complete your reporting solution. You analyze your data, you build your data model, you do your report design. And then you do all your preparation to share your report, And of course, you have all governance and admin here below. Let me just get my point laser. Okay. Governance and admin. And then we have this little box here that I called Power BI integrations. And the reason I'm showing this to you is because probably, again, if you're new, you're asking, okay, but where does exactly this fit in all of this process? So at least in my experience, what I usually do is for Power Apps and Power Automate, I tend to think about this or start building this at the end of the report design stage. Of course, because usually Power Apps, you embed them in your report, you kind of have to think about it before. But when I actually go and jump into Power Apps and start building my app is mostly when I finish my report design. And then I just leave like a little empty box just for my Power App, and the Power Automate the same thing. I think it's a lot easier to leave everything like when you already have your reports kind of built and ready to publish. Now, for those of you that are not so familiar with Power Apps, so you know Power BI already. I think probably most of you know Power BI already. So it enables you to get data insights and enables you to make better data-driven decision-making. But Power Apps enables everyone to build apps and use the apps to connect to the business data. And what does this mean exactly? So with Power Apps, you can basically build custom apps without needing to code anything. Yes, you heard it right. You don't need to code anything. I mean, you can code a little bit maybe, but not for the app we are building today. And also you have now, or for a long time, I think now, a Powerapps Visual that you can use in your reports. And this visual will be like context aware. What does this mean? It means, like, as you can see here, the Power App kind of knows whenever you click on something in your report, and it will filter it. It will have that context. I will teach you how that context is passed, and we will build this kind of very similar app to this one. But as you can see here, it's filtering based on whatever I select here. So it's actually very clever. And right now it's working like you filter, or the app is filtered by the report, but you can actually have the other way around. You can have the report filtered by the app. But again, we are doing the app filtered by the report in this session. So what about Power Automate? So Power Automate, it's basically a tool that allows you to automate business processes and those very tedious tasks, very manual tasks, and you can build instant flows with Power Automate. And I know that probably for a lot of people, they're like, okay, there are a lot of business processes. What are you meaning? Like, what do you mean with that? Sorry. So I think the best way to explain it is by giving you some examples. So, for example, with Power Automate, you can set up custom data alerts. You can export and email reports automatically. You can build the flow to do this. You can export paginated reports automatically, like have some kind of subscription that it's automatically generated. And I know Power BI does this, but Power Automate can take it to the next level, literally. You can save your paginated reports on a given frequency to your OneDrive, your own folder. You can refresh data sets, refresh data flows. You can trigger that all from Power Automate. You can see here, I have some examples here of some templates. If you go to Power Automate, you can have like multiple templates, and you have already this templates pre-built for Power BI, so you can just take one of these templates and build your flow like really easily. And now, since like 1 month ago, I'm not sure, but very recently, we also have something very, very exciting. We have the Power Automate Visual. So now you can not only add like Power Apps with the Powerapps Visual, you also have the Power Automate Visual, and I will show you later, if we have time, a little bit of how it works. So now that we kind of went through the theory, let's get into the details of everything. And oops, okay. And I will show you my very famous, or not, AutoTrader reports. So oops, it's not okay. So what are we going to do today? As you saw before, let me just go back here. I just want to show you the app already built so that you can see how it will work. And then we will build this app from scratch. So the app will look like this, basically. And you can select here, and it shows a different screen. And basically, this app is embedded in this report. And this report, just by the way, this report is a fake report I built about available used cars. Imagine in a car dealership, you have, or you are the owner, and you have this report just to check how many cars that you have, like some of the information about the cars, the prices, the brands, and so on. So this is a report. And for some reason, as the owner, I want to change the prices of my cars. I want to do my analysis here in my report, and I want to change the prices of my cars directly from Power BI. I don't want to go to, I don't know, another application and change my price there. No, I want to do it directly here. So here with the Power App, you can actually do that. So it allows you to have that write back capability that Power BI itself can't do, because Power BI is an excellent visualization tool. You can do multiple amazing things, but you can't write back to your database or your data sources directly from Power BI, because it is what it is. It is a visualization tool. So that's why Power Apps come very, very handy. In this case here, again, if we look at the Power App, if you remember the interactivity, like I said, we can have like the context passed from the report to the app. As you can see, the app changed, like it filtered to show me only BMWs. You can do the same thing for the other brands. You can even select with the slicers. You can select any chart, and it will filter dynamically. And for example, now I did my analysis and I want to change the price of this car. And as you can see, it changed for this car. And instead of 45, let's put like 100. Oops, that's too much. And now I'm going to submit this. And as you can see, it changed right away. I didn't have to do anything else. I just changed everything directly here from my report. Let me just unselect this. And this is one of the multiple options you have with Power Apps. And the reason, by the way, the reason it changed automatically is because I'm using direct query I'm using an Azure, my database for this report is an Azure SQL database, a table, and it's in direct query. If it's not in direct query, it won't work like this. But I will explain a little bit more about, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So we are also doing something else. We are also then going to take the same app and build a workflow behind it. For example, in this case, in this app, as you can see here, whenever I submitted my new price, it changed automatically. But there are some situations that you don't want this to happen. You want some kind of approval workflow behind it before you actually change anything back to your data in your database. So if we have time, and hopefully we will build a workflow in Power Automate that will allow us to basically not change we will change the price, but that price will only be reflected here, and it will only be written back to your database once someone approves it. I can show you how it actually works. If I go here and change this to 62, let me just make sure I'm going the series 5. Okay, it's this bubble here, I think. It was 42. Okay, let's see if this bubble changes. As you can see here, in this case, the bubble didn't change. So the reason is because I built a workflow behind this Power App. And that value that I just wrote will only be written back to the database once someone approves it. And I can show you how that looks. I just received an email that I can show you. So I did something like this. I received an email, and the person you will see later, you can define this email to go to whoever you want, your manager, your colleague, and you can then approve or reject. In this case, it shows a little information about the car and about the request, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to approve it. So now, if we go back here, still nothing changes. But if you remember this little bubble here, now if we refresh this, hopefully this bubble will change. Yes, and now it's 62. And by the way, I received an email as the manager, or as not the manager, sorry, the person who did the request, saying that my request was approved. So it's actually very clever. You can see here how Power Automate can really help your Power BI solutions and how it can basically make your solutions a little bit better and a little bit more automated. So this is what we are going to build today. I also have here some buttons. I wanted to talk about this because I find it really exciting. This is what I told you before. You now have a button for a Power Automate button. That it can actually trigger your flow directly from your report. These buttons, I didn't have the time to make them work, especially this export. I would love to make it work, but I was having some troubles with the environments. But again, if you click here, it will trigger directly from your report, something that before you couldn't really do. Right now it was triggered because I had a Power App here, but if I didn't have any Power App, there would be no way, or maybe there was, but not an easy way to basically trigger a workflow directly from my report. And now it is possible, and it's actually quite cool. If you see it on desktop, we'll see it later. So how are we going to build this? Okay, let me go to my report again. Okay, so this is my report, and we are going to try to replicate the solution I just showed you before. So the first step is this Powerapps visual here. It's a default, it's already a standard visual. You click on it, and it shows something like this. And you can see it even has like some kind of guidance on how you should use this visual. I already know how to use it, so I'll skip the steps. So for this visual to work, you need to pass some fields that you will want to use later in your app. For example, if you want to change the price, or if you want to show the price like in your app, like you saw before, if you want to show the model, if you want to show the brand, you need to pass that information to your Power App. And the way you do that is by basically selecting here the fields you want, and you can see everything changes right away. And I'm just going to select everything, just because you never know. So I'm selecting everything. And like I said, this is very, very important, because if you forget one field, if you change, for example, the name of one field, this will break. So that's why I said this should be ideally done like when you have pretty much a report built already. So here, let me just change my default environment. So here I already passed all my fields. Again, remember, this is very important for that interactivity that you saw. Whenever I clicked in any of the charts, it would filter my app. If you don't add the field here, for example, if you don't have the brands, this will never work, this interactivity, but you will see it in a bit. So I'm going to choose create new. Hopefully this will bring me like a very ugly URL, and let's go. And this will open the Power Apps for me. And it might take a little bit. Okay.
Is now a good time to ask you a brief question, Mara?
Yes.
No problem at all. So we do have one question from Steve, and he asks, are there any additional license costs to use Power Apps and Power Automate?
That is, and it depends. If you have an E5 license, if I'm not wrong, I'm not very good with licensing of Power Apps, to be honest. But if you have an E5 license of Office, I think some of the functionality comes by default. But I would assume, like, yeah, you need a license. I think that's probably the most accurate answer.
Definitely. Thank you very much. I'll let you continue.
Okay. So right now, as you can see here, it generated like this screen for me automatically. I didn't do anything. This just opened by itself, as you can see. And you can see here that there is this Power BI integration component here. And this is like where all the magic happens. If you don't have this, this will never interact, like your report will never be interactive like with your app. So this is, again, very important. If you don't have this Power BI integration, it doesn't really work. So right now we have it, so it's fine. And just to make sure, as you can see here, I clicked on the gallery. And when I click on the gallery, you can see where my items are coming from. And my items are coming from Power BI. That's exactly what I needed and what I wanted. So let's leave it like that. And as you can see here, you have your gallery, and you have kind of, let's call it the rows, which are different things. But here in this case, let me click on the gallery, because if you click on one of the rows, let me just show you what happens. Everything changes. But if you click on the gallery itself, you can actually make it bigger or smaller. And I just want to add a title here just to make it look nicer. So let me just add a title, add a label, and just say, oops, this is my auto trader app. Sorry, 30 seconds, my screen is going to die. Okay, it came back to life. Okay, so now I can just adjust this a little bit. This is my auto trader app, and you can make it look even a little bit nicer. You can change the theme, for example. You can make it look different. So let's leave it like this for now. This app won't be probably as nice as the other one, but I think you get the idea here with the themes. And you can change, of course, the colors here. For example, of this label, you have here the properties pane, where you can change like loads of different properties. And in this case, I will change, for example, the background color. I'll put it, I don't know, that's probably terrible. Let's put it black. And you can easily change the color of the text, for example, to put it bold, make it a little bit bigger. And this is our app. So now, if we want to add, for example, right now our app is not very useful, right? It doesn't really tell us anything. It just says the brands of the cars. So one interesting thing is, if you remember when I did this, everything changes. So you can do the same with everything else. You can see that everything is changing. When I move my label, everything changes. So you don't have to do this to repeat the same process for all the rows. You just have to do the first one, and that's it. You're good to go. And this can be as easy as copy pasting the label. As you can see, I just copy pasted the same label. And put it a little bit nicer. And I'm going to copy paste the same label again. And put it here. And let's leave it just 3 labels for now. So right now we have this first label, and as you can see here, it's bringing me the text from basically whatever is reading from the Power BI data. It's getting that text from Power BI. And here in this property, you can also even mix like text with whatever data you're getting from Power BI. For example, you have the brands, you can just write like this. And you have something like this, as you can see. Oops. Okay. And you can do the same thing for the others. And you can, of course, this is repeating everything. But for example, if you want here to show the bubble, because remember when we added those fields in Power BI, I told you it was really important. Otherwise, the Power App doesn't really get the context. That's how it is important. That's why it is important. Because, for example, if I didn't add that model fields, I wouldn't be able to select it now. So right now I am able to select it. So that's why I'm saying those fields are really, really important. And again, just add some text here. And now I'm just showing the price. You can do the same thing for everything. But it doesn't look that nice, the price. The format is actually terrible. Let's change it a little bit. So again, there is a function called text that you can use to basically format whatever you're getting from Power BI. So let's just add a format here. I want to see pounds. I want to see the format kind of like this. Let's see if this works. Okay, it worked. It's showing exactly how I wanted it to show. So you can actually format numbers to make it look a little bit nicer and tidier. And I'm just going to make this like pop up, right? Because it's my price that I want to change. And now that is the image missing. So the image is as easy as you need to select. Again, you just need to change basically the first entry, the first row. Everything else will just replicate, will be replicated in the other rows. And I can go here. And if you can, actually, you can copy paste. You can try to copy paste this. I'll do that just for you to see. And try to do something like this, and you will see what happens. Because I want an image. Remember that. If I do this, it shows me the URL of my image, which is not very useful, right? So I'm going to delete this. And for you to actually have the proper image here, you actually need a field that can support that format, like the image. So let's add the image here. And now in the image property, you can do just exactly the same thing. This item dot image. Now it will know what's the right format to show my data. So as you could see, very, very easily, we already created a screen in like, what, 20 minutes? Probably 15. So you can see it's really, really easy. I'm just going to change the name of this screen to browse screen. Actually, we should change the names of everything. We are not going to do that now, of course, but okay. So we already have the browse screen. Let's see if it's working. And yeah, it is. Of course, this is not working yet because we only have one screen. But this is kind of working already. It shows me exactly what I wanted it to show. So good. But now we want to edit the price, which is a different story, right? So we need to add a new screen. We need to add an edit screen. In this case, because I'm really lazy, I'm going here to the templates and I'll choose the form screen. So as you can see, it generated the screen automatically for me. It doesn't really show much. Let me just change the name again. This is my edit screen. And again, if you remember edit screen, probably this question will come up at some point. If you go here to your form, There is no data source. It's asking you to connect to the data source, but we will get there. If you go to the items property, not the item, sorry, oops. Where is it? The default mode. If you go to the default mode, you can see it's edit. Probably you will ask this at some points. Can I add new rows? Yes, you can. You can just go here and click new, and this will basically make your app understand that whatever you're writing, it's a new row. You don't want to edit something, you want to create something new, add a new row. You would, of course, need to adapt the app a little bit, but this is just to show you that you can actually also add new rows. But for now, let's keep it as edit. So as you can see here, it's asking me to connect to my data source, which I don't have at the moment. So let's click here, connect to data, and this like screen here will show. Let's add data. As I said before, my data was in a SQL Server database. So I'm going to get SQL Server. And I have my actually my connection here already. So I'm going to use it again because I'm lazy. And I don't want to set up the connection again. And I'm going just to choose, I'm going to choose my table, which is AutoTrader 2. I know it's this one that I'm using in my report. I'm going to click connect. And hopefully this will connect. And now you're like looking at the screen and you're like, nothing happened. Why? Because you actually you set up the connection, but you didn't tell specifically your app, like this screen of your app, look at that data source. You still need to tell him that, or her, it probably. So you see here in the data sources, because we defined that connection, you have here the connection that I just created. I'm just going to click here. And still, it changed a little bit, not much still. But we can now edit the fields. If you click here, you can see that I have all my fields from this table here that I had in SQL Server. And you can start adding the fields. You can start adding the brands, the car number, the model, the price, and maybe the image, because it will look nicer. And as you can see here, it showed right away. And now we have something. Finally, it doesn't show anything yet. We will get there. But we actually can see something. And you can see it. Let me go back to the tree view. And here again, let's go to the fields. And you can see all my fields that I just added. You can order these fields. For example, I want the image to be on top because it looks nicer. The brand, the model here. Let's put the car number right below the image. But we still have a problem. For example, this will be an edit, like something that, or an app that you will use to edit. You don't really want people to be able to change the card number or the brand or the model. The only field that you want to be able to edit is the price. So how do you do this? Here in the fields again, you can see here this control type drop down. If you go here, you can see that is something here that says rich text. If you click on here, you will see that that box disappears. That's exactly what we want. So people won't be able now to change that field. The same thing for the card number. And let's do the same thing for brands and the same thing for price. Not price, sorry. Oops, model. The price we want to edit. Okay, so now the only field that your users will be able to edit is the price, which is amazing. That's exactly what we wanted. But there's still one problem here. We don't actually see anything. Like, how do we know? We built this browse screen before, and we want, for example, to click here, and we want this to take us to this screen and show us whatever we clicked before. But actually now it's not showing anything. This is because we are not telling our form that it should be looking at that data coming from browse screen. So what we need to do is we go to edit form, and let's go to the items. And basically in this property here, you need to tell, basically what's happening here is your app is telling you, okay, you defined the data source, you added the fields, but actually that table has like, I don't know, 50 rows. which is not a lot, I know, but it has like 50 rows. What row should I show? It doesn't know. So you need to tell your app what row it should be showing. So, and what row it should be showing should be this one, whatever you clicked here before. So if you go here, again, let's go back to the item property. You basically need to tell your app to look up whatever you clicked before, or look up before that, look up in your database in SQL. Whatever you clicked before, basically, you want to find the car number, which is kind of the primary key, and you want it to be the same one as the one you have in the in your gallery, in the other gallery. Whatever you selected, again, in the gallery. This is basically me telling my app here, and you can see it showed right away. And now it kind of picked up the context of what it should be showing. Basically, I'm telling my app, go to the SQL server and get me whatever car I selected in the previous gallery. And it's kind of, I think, doing exactly that. Oops, why this disappeared? I'm not sure. Okay, we're back. So it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Kind of. This image doesn't look that well, that right to me, but we will get there. So, and one thing I want to mention is why, if you notice in the browse screen, we are actually getting our items from Power BI. But in this edit form, we are getting our items from SQL Server. We are retrieving a row from SQL Server based on whatever you selected here. So basically, the data source is different. And why are we doing this? Because for this browse screen, we wanted to be interactive. We wanted to kind of pick the context that you have in your Power BI report. So you kind of have to read the data from your Power BI report. You need to use this Power BI integration. But to edit, you don't want, there is no way for you to edit like directly a data set in Power BI, at least not for my knowledge. So what you need to do is change the data in the data source, which is a SQL database. So that's why in this screen, we are using a SQL database instead of just reading Power BI, the data that you have in Power BI again. So this is what we're doing here. Now let's just make this look a little bit nicer. Auto Trader app. I don't really like this one here. I just want to show you this errors. As you can see here, everything disappeared. If this happened, you can always click here, and it will show what's going on. Because this was kind of using the width of the other icons I just deleted. It's giving me an error, but you can just delete that, and hopefully this will work. And delete the errors like this, and everything will work, hopefully. So we kind of have almost everything we need here in the screen. There is just this image thing which looks not very good. We don't want to see the URL. We want to see the image itself. So I'm just going to delete this. Before deleting, you need to unlock the properties. So now you can actually delete this. Otherwise, you can't really delete it. So let's make this bigger. You can actually delete this one too. And here you can now do the same thing as we did in the previous one. You can add an image directly here. And as you can see, it kind of fits in this box. And that's exactly what we want. We want it to fix in this box, and it doesn't go like below this, which means it will pick exactly what it should. So let's leave it like this. And again, how do we now pick the context? You can do something as simple as this. You can go here and check what is it doing here to pick the context. It's saying it's going for like the text property, and it's getting the parent default. This means whatever you selected in the other gallery. So you can do the exact same thing with your image. But instead of the text property, you have the image property. And now I forgot what was parent.default. Okay. So you can just write the same thing, parent.default, and hopefully this will show you the image. Yes. Can make it bigger, very nice image. And now it's actually working. You can't edit anything. You're seeing your car, you have some of the details of the car. So we have two screens already. But now it's missing that, like, kind of the glue is missing from all of this because they are kind of separate screens. And again, if you go here and if you click here, it doesn't really, nothing happens. So let's take care of this first. So again, you just need to click this button. And when you click on this button, what you want to do is you don't want to select any parent. Let's delete this. You want to navigate. There is a function called navigate. And you're basically telling whenever someone clicks on this button, navigate, in this case, to the edit screen. Edit screen. It should be edit form. Okay. It should be edit screen. Not sure why it's not showing. Okay. Okay, so now we kind of connected this screen with the other one, with this one that we just built. Okay, so let's test if this is working. Let's click it. It's working perfectly fine, I think. Let me just go back and make sure that everything is working. Let's test with another car just to see if it picks up the context. Yeah, it might take a few seconds, but yeah, it picked the context, so everything is working perfectly fine here. But now, if we try it again, a third time, as you can see, imagine you clicked on this row by mistake. You can't really go back. There is no button here to go back. So you can actually just make this a little bit more user-friendly and add an icon here. And you can add, let's select one icon, maybe the home icon. So you can add it here somewhere. You can easily change the color. Let's put it like this. And then you can, again, it's not a color property, it's on select property. Whenever someone selects this button, again, I want to navigate to my browse screen. I want to go back, basically. So right now, if I test this, yes, it's working. And as you can see, now the screens are way more connected and they are kind of talking with each other. But still, now that you got to the screen, you change your price. What's missing? How do you submit this? How do you actually write back to your database? So you need to add a new button. Let's add a new button to our screen. Where is the button? It's here. Let's add a new button here. Let's just change the name. And now what you want this to do is to basically, whenever you click on this button, you want to submit the form. This means that whatever you wrote here, it will be written back to your database. So again, when you click here now, it will submit this form. But when you submit this form, I'm not going to test it now, but when you submit this form, what will happen is, or maybe I can test it. Let's do it like this. Okay. As you can see, nothing happens. It doesn't really show me anything. And as an end user, I would be like, okay, did this work? I'm not sure. Nothing really happened. So it's always good to have a success screen. Let's again be lazy and just get one success screen from here. And as you can see, now we have a success screen. So let me just change the name again. Okay, so now what we can do here is on select, we submit the form, and that is another property called on success, which is here somewhere, hopefully. It's not here, so it's not the button, it's the edit form. In the edit, in the form itself, sorry, there is a non-success property here, and you're basically telling, okay, if everything goes well, show me that success screen. So if everything goes well, show me the success screen, navigate to the success screen. And one other thing that you should do here, for example, to have that, if you remember when I was showing you this here, whenever I change the price here, let's change one of the prices. Let's change this one, for example. Okay. What happened here is you will see, just look at the little bubble for this car. When I submit this, the little bubble goes up, so everything updates automatically. And how does this happen? So that is a property, because you have this component here, the Power BI integration, you can use a property called Power BI integration.refresh. And it's just this, you don't need to write anything after it. And when you do this, this basically will refresh your visuals. And again, this is why the direct query here, or that's the reason I use direct query here, because what this will do, this Power BI.refresh function, is it will refresh the visuals, not the data set. But because we are using direct query, refreshing the visuals is basically going back to the database and retrieving whatever information we have there. So for direct query, if you're using direct query, it's kind of a refresh, because again, refreshing the visuals in direct query, you're getting new data or whatever data you have in the database. If the data was already submitted, you will get the new data right away. This Power BI integration function is amazing for this, and it works really well, as you could see. So now, I think we have pretty much everything. Let's just see again, test everything. Let's go to this car. I'm not going to change the price. And yes, it's showing me my screen. So let's save this. And I just wanted to show you something, because as you can see here, nothing shows here. From the moment I save and publish this app, the app will show automatically here, like as if it was magic. So let's save my Auto Trader app. Oops. And let's put June 25. Okay, let me save this. And now it's saving my app. And now if I go back to Power BI, as you can see, it's already kind of thinking. And hopefully my app will show here. It might take again a few seconds to show. Okay, it's coming. And here we go. There is our app. And now we are going to test everything. You should actually be testing every time. What I usually do is every time I build a screen, I go back and test in Power BI. I didn't do this here. I should have done that. And that's the best practice. Let's see if everything is working. Yes, it is. As you can see, it's very interactive. Every time you click here in any of your charts, it will filter my app. And now let's test the real deal. Let's see if this is actually changing the price. But first, let me publish this first, because I prefer to do this whenever I have this published in the service. So let me just publish this on my workspace, because sometimes the Power App doesn't work properly in the desktop version, like when you editing everything on desktop. So I always tend to test this on the service, because I know on the service probably it will be a lot better, the experience of testing all of this. So let's go back. Okay. This is Auto Trader V2. Let's go here and get my new report. Okay, so this is our report that I just published. And now let's test everything here, because it's a lot easier. Okay, again, let's test. Okay, interactivity is there. Let's change the price now, and hopefully everything will work. So right now we are 32. Let's put it at 80. And now, as you can see, it changed right away. So our first kind of app, our first task that was building an app that is interactive with your report, it's pretty much done now. It's not exactly the same as the one I showed you, but I think the logic behind it is pretty much the same. So now we can go like an extra level. We can go back, and remember when I told you about the flows and everything, we can go that extra level basically. And here, oops, if you go to, oops, not, it's the edit screen. You can actually add a flow to your submit button. So this means that whenever you click on the submit button, this will trigger your flow. And if you, how do you do that? So if you click on this button, you have here an option saying action, and you have here Power Automate. So if you click here, you can see that I have a few flows here already. I'm going to, for example, I mean, I can create a new one. I don't think I have time to do one from scratch, and I wanted to show you something else. So I'm not going to create one today, but I'm going to show you what it looks like. For example, here it shows, oops, maybe that was too fast, sorry. So when you click on create a new flow, it shows something like this. And this is the one you need. Whenever you click on the Powerapps button, you basically trigger something. So in this case here, as you can see, it's kind of a weird message, like you don't need to do anything. And you're like, are you sure? Yes, you don't need to do anything else. Your app will know that when you click here, the flow is supposed to run. So you don't need to do anything else. Of course, you need to add your new steps. And let me go back here. You need to add your new steps. And in this case here, what we would do is we would try to get the row from, let me write something else. As you can see here, there are so many things. I'm just going to show you a few, like so many things you can do here. For example, if I write Outlook, there are like so many actions that you can take. You can send emails, you can get rooms. I don't know, even with Teams, it has like a pretty good integration too. You can send messages on Teams automatically. But in this case here, we want to do something with SQL Server. We want to write back to our SQL Server, and we want to get whatever row the user was selecting. This tab is completely broken. Let me take it out. So not here, maybe here. So whenever you click here, you want this to know, or to know what row you're trying to change, basically. But before, it needs to basically retrieve that row to change it later. So you have here all the SQL Server connectors. Not that many. Oops. I don't think it's showing all of them, to be honest. So you probably would get the row here. You have a connector here. Be careful, because this is not be careful. This is a premium connector. So this means that you for sure will need like your E5, I think it's E5 license will not work here. I think it will work for a lot of the other connectors, like the Office 365 connectors for Outlook, Teams, and stuff like that, but not for SQL. This is a premium connector, and for this one, you definitely need a license. So here you just type the name of your server and so on. And I'm just going to show you something, because something unique for Powerapps that works in a very weird way, but in an amazing way at the same time. So for example, here, how would you retrieve your row? So you need to get that from the Power App, because whenever someone clicks here on submit, you want to know that they are trying to submit the card number 3443. So how do you get this number? And the thing is, that is one thing here, very weird, that only says ask in Power Apps. And when you click here, it generates like a variable automatically. It shows like this. And you can do this like as many times as you want, as you can see here. And the variables will have different names. Hopefully, trigger body. Is it the same? Okay, let's add another step, and you can see. Okay, send email with options. If you add it here, again, you can ask in Power Apps. You can use this everywhere, if it allows me to. Exactly. And you can see it kind of generates like different variables. And when you save this, I'm just going to show you one of the apps, or that app that I already have built. So it's easier. When you do this, or maybe not, I can actually add it from here. I have a flow. This flow that I'm going to add is this one. I'm just going to drag it here. Okay, this is like the flow already built. As you can see, I have kind of a variable here. I have two other variables here. So I have a few variables, and now you're probably asking, how does this work, like with Powerapps? How does Powerapps know like how to interact with Power Automate, basically? So this is my Auto Trader approval flow one. Let's use this one. It's this one. I'm just going, first of all, let me add a new button because this will delete the submit form and I don't want it. Let's add a new button just for you to see how this works. This is my new button. Imagine this is like without the flow, my normal button, and this is the flow button. So let's do this again. Action, Power Automate. Let's add that approval flow that I've built before here. And it takes a few seconds again. And now, as you can see, it shows me like these options here. Like it shows me basically, I've basically clicked, it disappeared. Okay. It basically is trying to get these variables from your app. This, what you're seeing here, get row ID, send email with options. If you go to this flow, it's these variables here. It's the same one. And here, send email with options. As you can see, it's the exact same one. So basically, this is how you pass the context from your Power App to Power Automate. So in this case, if we go back to my flow, where is the row ID? The row ID is basically the car ID. So that's, again, how you pass the context. I know it's a very weird way because it generates all these variable names automatically. That doesn't really mean anything. But you just need to know, okay, this variable, with this variable, I'm trying to get the row ID, basically the car ID. So here, this is the first variable that I need to pass. So let me just get the car ID. I'll leave this one for now. It's an error, but let's leave it. The car number, or the car ID, is the data car value 7. That's exactly what I want to pass. So I just write data card value 7. And now it's asking me for another variable. It wants to pass another variable to my flow. So let's see again. I don't remember exactly what this variable is. So let's see. It's the send email with options, which apparently I've defined as the new price. So, okay, we need to get the new price somehow. We need to pass the new price to our flow. Our flow needs to know what's the new price. So the new price will correspond to the data card value 4. So we just do this, and we just say, okay, this will get this value from data card value 4. So now, when you do this, this function will know that it should get the card number from your app, the price from your app, and then it passes this as this very weird variables that you're seeing here, and it will know exactly what to do. It's a very weird thing because mainly of the name of the variables, and that's asking Powerapps that shows up here. But it really works, as you can see, like in the beginning that I showed you how it works. And again, weird, but it works really well. So this is how basically you pass context from your app to your flow. It's through this function and through these variables. And again, passing context from Power BI to your app is from this Power BI integration here components. So basically, we are now again building everything from scratch, but you saw like the end results in the beginning. And now to finish, I just want to show you something very cool. That is that actually I didn't manage to make work again because I had a few problems with my environments. Let's use this one here. Okay. If this allows me to change the screen, the tab. As I told you before, since like 1 month ago, I think, that is a Power Automate visual. And I just want to show you how that looks like. So if I go here, it's still a custom visual. It's not a default visual. Probably it will be a default visual at some point. You click on Get More Visuals, and hopefully a window will show here. Okay, so let's get that Power Automate visual. And as you can see here, it's in preview. So you can add this visual here. Okay, it's imported. And now you can just use it like this. Not exactly what I wanted to do, but okay. Okay, so this is the Power Automate visual, and now you look at this, and it's very similar. As you remember, like the Power Apps one, it shows you like a few steps, like a few instructions on how to use it. This one is kind of similar. We are not actually going to add any data, but the way you actually create something is by clicking on the three dots here and click on Edit, and this will show a new window. And basically, if you remember Power Automate, this will bring Power Automate to Power BI Desktop, which I think is pretty cool. As you can see here, this is basically Power Automate, and you can create a new flow from here. You can create an instant flow, you can get a template. So when you go here, for example, create a new flow, and now it just says, again, it's the same thing, pretty much the same thing as Power Apps. Just say, okay, whenever you click a button, this flow will be triggered. So you just have to add new steps. Let's, for example, you wanted to export this report, for example. Let's get Power BI. Okay, export to file for Power BI reports. You have this action here. Okay, and now you just have to define the workspace, the report. Let me just get the workspace and the report, which is, let's use this one. And then the export format, it's fine. Let's save it. Everything else, let's just leave it for now. It's not mandatory. It's not required. You don't have to fill it, so it's fine. Okay, and it generated here some random name for my new flow. And now I think it's saved. Let's go back. So you have this API connection, okay? And now you have this button here that says apply. And this is very important. You need to apply this, otherwise it doesn't really get, like this flow doesn't really work with your button. So click on apply. And now it says, okay, it's applied to your button. And if you go back here now, this will look like this. So now, whenever you click on this button here, it will basically export your report automatically, directly from Power BI. You don't have to go like to the, I don't know, file option, something, I don't know. You just need to click on the button and that's it. It will generate it for you. But just one thing, I think this only works with I'm pretty sure this only works in premium workspaces, not even PPU, premium per user. I think I tried this with premium per user and it didn't work. So your report needs to be in a premium workspace for this to work, at least the last time I tested this. So I think this is all I wanted to talk about. And I'm almost on time, 1 minute left.
Wow, Mara, what an absolutely fantastic session and a wealth of information you've passed across to us there in such a short period of time. So thank you very much for that. We do have a couple of questions which I just want to pose to you. So okay. We have a question from Mark Lund, very good question, which is, as SQL Server, as you mentioned, is a premium connector, it can become expensive when you add in a lot of users for the Powerapps licensing as well. So it seems that a common workaround is to use a SharePoint list as a staging ground for the app to interact with, and then pull the SharePoint rows into the SQL Server. Do you have any tips or warnings about using this approach?
I mean, the scalability, like SharePoint is not really that scalable. I think probably that's the main problem. It's not really, you're trying to replace a database with SharePoints, and that might not work well if you end up with millions of rows, probably.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, in this example, it seems like they're only getting the changes to SharePoint, yeah. So it should be minimal. And then using SharePoint to pull the changes into. That's
a very good approach then.
Perfect. So no cons to that as of yet, and no tips as such.
I mean, if you don't want to use the premium connector, it works. It does what it's supposed to do. So it's.
Perfect. And then we have a question from Solar as well, and they ask: is there a good way to check the data model within Powerapps when they're using data from different sources?
You have the data. That's a very good question. I'm so used to Power Query, and I know there is something here somewhere, but I don't usually do this. But that is a way, yes, to check and to do some changes. That it works kind of, I think, like Power Query again. I don't usually do changes here in Power Apps, but I'm pretty sure you can do some changes to look at your basically your connections and see your tables. I'm not sure what it is, to be honest.
Okay, that's not a problem at all. And then the last question is: have you ever experienced any issues using the export button only working for the creator of the flow as opposed to working for all users?
Not really, but you need to share the probably you need to share the flow with the end users, I would say. And again, and again, you need to have your report in a premium workspace. That's very important. I think it still works like that. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. And again, you need to probably share your flow with the other users. I'm not sure they will be able to run it if they don't have access to it. They should sometimes, but yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. And we have just had a last minute question come in from Mark. So thanks again, Mark. Is there a way to create the app in landscape mode and not portrait mode, which seems to be the default?
I tried and it's not that easy. I think there is a way, but by default, that is a very tricky way. You basically, because by default, you need this Power BI integration. And for some reason, for me, it only works if I go from Power BI and open that very big URL from within Power BI. Otherwise, you don't have this Power BI integration here. You can build like an app with the landscape mode, but again, from Power BI, it shows like this. One trick that I heard people doing is you can export your app and then basically zip it and make like a zip file. And then you can, there are some folders where you can actually change like the configuration of the app, and then you have to import it again. It's a very tricky way. I'm not sure that those people actually managed to do it, but I heard that trick before.
No problem at all. So maybe that might be something you might touch on in your blog in the future.
Yes.
So just so you are aware, I have let everybody know where they can find you, the Data Pairs blog, and also on your LinkedIn as well. So once again, Mara, thank you very much for joining us this evening with an absolutely amazing session.
No problem. My pleasure.
And thanks to everybody as well for joining us once again at the Microsoft Power BI UK user group in association with Onyx Data. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you've been here once again with us. Thanks everybody, and see you soon.